Brian Windhorst reporting this now, that the Chinese government issued a delay to the restart of the Chinese Basketball Association. So, Max, what is the best plan for the NBA returning?
Well, first, I think Jay's idea, your idea is very interesting, particularly when you're not talking about fans on the ship or anyone being able to buy a ticket, but rather it's just a method really to isolate the players and their families, provided you get enough tests for everybody. That's a ton of tests you got to get your hands on. They're not available right now in those numbers, given the circumstances as they are, where people really need them. It would be a bad look for the league, even if they could get their hands on the test at the moment. But eventually the question is, what do you do? I agree in principle that you have to isolate everyone. Everyone has to be in quarantine. The players with their families is a great idea. I don't know if a cruise ship is the best idea. First of all, when you're out on waters, international law applies. That's why cruise ships can be dangerous at times. Secondly, the idea like they're out and they're isolated, but if for some reason you haven't caught everything and there's a contagion or a spread of the virus, then all of a sudden the cruise ship is dealing with sort of a medical crisis, as opposed to finding some remote location in the United States where you can simply build a gym and do the same thing, and you have access to more stuff more readily coming in and out, including hospitals and stuff like that. But I think it's a creative way to think about it. In other words, how do we isolate the players and their families in such a way that we can actually play these games?
I like a lot about your idea, Jay, from the standpoint of the cruise ships. I just think that we're extending ourselves too much when it comes to players, families, and all of that stuff coming on the cruise ship as well. Clearly, you don't want to be away from your family, and I understand that. But the reality of the situation is that, you know, this notion that you have to play in front of fans, of course we know that's ideal. Of course we know guys will want to do that. We get all of that. But in the end, these are obviously very, very unique times. We haven't dealt with a pandemic like this in our lifetime. And the bottom line is that desperate times call for desperate measures. And I think that if you have to put the players on a ship to play and it's devoid of fans, so be it. I mean, if that's what it takes for them to continue to get their money and obviously finish the season and decide and define a champion, and it has to be without anybody in attendance, then that's the way it has to be. That's really, really what it comes down to. Of course, it's not ideal. Of course, there's something that would be missing tremendously from it all. But in the end, we all understand why, and we're all in it together. So we understand completely why that would be the case, and that is that. If you put people on the ship, yeah, you might test them or whatever, and I get it, testing everybody before they come on the ship. I just think that the more people that are around, the more possibility there is of slippage, of something getting missed, and obviously something wrong ultimately occurring. So I don't like the fact that other people would be there other than all necessary participants in the matter. That's it for me.
You know, S.A., so obviously trying to think through all this, I have no idea where the country is going to be at in May or June. I mean, we're just hitting April 1st tomorrow. So obviously I think this is a moving goalpost all the time. And I never want to do anything to subject players or family members. Max, I agree with you to an extent where you said, hey, testing everybody on that ship, considering that we have lack of testing now, is a horrible look. I don't know if that will be the case in 2 months, but maybe it will be. You know, I was just trying to ideate and brainstorm on optionality if the league, you know, NSA, I go back to you know, one of the things I was trying to think through is if you're a player, if you're a guy like LeBron James, or if you're making, you know, $25 million a year, you know, even if you don't get paid, you know, even though it is your job, if you can't go with your family, would you decide not to go? You know, then what would happen to your NBA contract if you do decide not to go because you don't want to leave your family? So I was trying to find some way to make it as, you know, all encompassing together for players and their family members as well. But can I say this?
Yeah,
I think we're starting to get to a point, guys, where it's either you try something that's going to be extreme like this, or I think the other option is we just cancel the season. We legitimately cancel the season.
Well,
if we're
let me
not
say
in
this.
a better place by May or June, then it might have no other choice, guys.
Let me say this. I've spoken to numerous NBA folks, coaches, executives, owners over the last few days, and I can tell you cancellation is not something that they're talking about. You have some people who think that there will be no end of the regular season, like the regular season has already ended, and that when we come back, they'll go ultimately straight into the playoffs, which obviously there's a lot of objection to. And then you have others that believe you'll find a way to have anywhere from 5 to 15 games to end the regular season. And then after that, you go into the playoffs with a willingness to go all the way deep into August in order for this NBA season to be completed. Nobody wants to go against the NFL. Nobody wants to have games going up against regular season NFL games. But any time before that, there is a significant level of hope that something will transpire that will enable you to have those end of regular season games and the playoffs.
I think there would even, the more I learn about where the mentality of practically everyone in the NBA on this issue, the more I think they would even go up against the NFL if need be. Like, you have to strip away everything that's not essential. By the way, I hate to say it, including family members. You know, if you really want that money and you can get your hands on maybe 1,000 tests, then probably the whole NBA could be quarantined somewhere, just essential personnel, the players, medical staff, whatever that, coaches, like just refs, essential personnel. Maybe you could do it if you got 1,000 tests, which, as you say, Jay, right now is a bad look, even if you could get them, but maybe in a couple months wouldn't be. What Brian Windhorst is reporting now is that the Chinese government rolling back what they thought was going to be the starting date of stuff, it's going to be minimum of a 4-month delay for them.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.